So welcome to another episode of Self-Love Your Way There. I am Jerome Bragg's intuitive guide who helps you self-love your way to a well-bodied and a delicious life. Today, I have something really exciting and juicy to talk to you about. And it wasn't what I had planned initially to have this episode about. I had initially planned to talk about something entirely different. As a matter of fact, I plan to talk to you all about how modern spirituality made me sick. And that was what I had planned. And I was going to come up here and talk about all of that. But a lot of things have happened. A lot of things happened on the day that I initially had planned to do this. As a matter of fact, I planned to do this a few days ago. But a worldwide event happened. And I knew that this event was a teachable moment, that this moment had a lesson for love and a lesson about self-love for us all. And me being a self-love teacher that I am, I could not pass this up. So I tabled that. So in the next episode, I will be talking, at least that's my intention, to talk about how modern spirituality made me sick. But today I want to talk to you about the sacred self-love lessons that we can gain from Simone Biles pulling out of the Olympics. So yeah, we are definitely going there today. It's been all over the world. Many people are talking about it. It's set the internet ablaze. It's been on the news and all of that. And I wanted to speak about this because I saw there was a lot of juicy spiritual growth and healing lessons here that we were missing in those conversations. So I wanted to make that conversation happen here. Since this is a space for healing, this is a space for spiritual growth, this is a space for self-love, let's dive into it. So just to catch you up, if you don't know, by the time you're listening to this, Simone Biles is the most decorated gymnast of all time. She was going into the Olympics, and as a matter of fact, she had a chance at this Olympics. If she would have won gold medal, she would have been the most decorated Olympian of all times. I don't think it was just woman Olympian. I think it was all Olympian, like of all Olympians, she would have been the most decorated Olympian of all time. But as she was preparing and going through her trials, she seemed a little off. And right before she was doing a vault to prepare for the team final, you could tell before she even ran to the vault, you could just tell, and her mental space, she wasn't there. And when she ran and did the vault, you could tell in the air, her body wasn't completely aligned, and she landed a very uncharacteristic landing to where she almost fell. And she ended up pulling out of the team competition after that, she said that, I'm not here. I don't trust my body. I don't trust myself with this. I need to step back from my mental health. I need to step back. And the world went ablaze. And there were so many people that were just basically just going off on her and saying, she was a quitter and she should have sucked it up and gone for the team. And this is what I want to speak about. So before I give you the juice on this, as far as the lessons go, let me give you just a little bit of background about why even this got my attention. I am a huge gymnastics fan. And I'm a huge gymnastics fan, one, because I used to be a gymnast myself. That's something that, if you've been following me for a while, you probably didn't know. But when I was a kid growing up, I was in gymnastics. As a matter of fact, I was the number one male in my age group. I was the number one male gymnast in my state for a while. Now, I can't do any of that today, right? I can't do a backflip today. Let me not say I can't do. I haven't done and haven't tried to do a backflip in years, or even the splits. But gymnastics is very close to my heart. So it's one of the things I follow, not just during the Olympics, I follow it all throughout the year. So I've been following Simone's career for a while and very excited about her career. So when people began to vilify her for pulling out of this, and they were calling her a quitter, that she shouldn't have been, basically they were saying she shouldn't be so selfish, she should put herself, put her team first. I began to see the lesson. Now, here's something that I know and that I've learned through my own spiritual growth journey and my healing journey. The lesson behind everything that shows up in our lives, no matter if it's in our work, in our relationships, if it's in our homes, in our personal lives, if it's in our health of our bodies, no matter what it is, the lesson behind that is always love. It is always something about love. And I began to see the bigger lesson behind all of this for us all. Now, many of us, most of the lesson that's being spun is around mental health, like take care of your mental health. And yes to that, like I'm not negating that at all. Absolutely take care of your mental health, absolutely prioritize your mental health. But this is deeper than that. This is even deeper than that. And so I want to share with you what the 3 sacred lessons are around love, particularly self-love, around Simone Biles pulling out. So again, the first thing that happened, lesson number 1. So the narrative coming out from many is that she's a quitter. She didn't deserve to be there. That she didn't deserve to quit, that she should have put her team first. And she shouldn't have been so selfish, and air quotes on the selfish part. And this to me is a glaring reflection of our conditioning as a society to believe that we do not deserve to center our own well-being, especially if in centering our own well-being, it may hinder another person from getting what they want. This is a huge piece right here, right? So it's really about like your wellness. This is a narrative that is very rampant in our culture, and this is why so many people are lashing out, because we have been made to believe this. We have been made to hold this as a truth individually, that and collectively, that your wellness is less of a concern than the fulfillment of another person's desires. We see this a lot in people-pleasing behaviors, right? Where we will break our backs to meet the needs of other people and neglect our own needs, right? We will break our backs to make sure other people are successful and happy and thriving when we are starving and we are not successful, and we are definitely not thriving, we're struggling ourselves, right? This is very rampant. And we have been very heavily conditioned to believe that our only worth comes when we sacrifice our own well-being to serve others. This is what is what I call being selfless, right? That you don't even have any of yourself. You're always about somebody else. And this is where a lot of the vitriol was coming from. How dare she do something for herself and not put the group's needs over her own, right? And in our culture and in our society today, especially in the West, but this is I see this a lot in Asia, I see this a lot in Africa. I've worked with people around the world. I see this very commonly, and people, this is really a virus that is spreading around the world, is that selflessness is highly rewarded, even if that selflessness will lead you to injury, unhappiness, or even death. And why I say that here, let's just use Simone as an example. The types of moves that Simone Biles is doing in gymnastics are moves that no other gymnast is doing. I'm not making, this is not hyperbole, this is not made up, this is factual. The types of moves that she's performing on many of the apparatuses are not being performed by any other gymnast. As a matter of fact, a lot of the other gymnasts can't even do them. They are that difficult to do. They are that high of a difficulty. And so they're dangerous if you're not fully present. If your mind is not, especially when gymnastics, if your mind is not fully present and you zone out or you're stressed, if you aren't fully present and you don't rotate correctly, and you don't, if you're not flexing correctly and all of that, you can not only injure yourself, you could break your neck. Like, this is the type of moves that she's doing. You could land and break your neck and become paralyzed. You could land and die. And this is literally serious. So instead of thinking about that, here she is. You obviously see she's off. She fell on a vault that is, she sticks 99% of the time. Not just like lands well, but she sticks 99%. She almost fell. And to do some harder vaults that take even more difficulty and more focus, she could have really hurt herself. And there have been gymnasts in the past who have pressed beyond their mental capacities in the moment, and they've become paralyzed or they become injured to where they had to end their gymnastics career. So this is what they were at. This is what we were asking, right? You should just do what we want you to do and try to help us, right? Try to help us and forget about yourself, even if it means you get injured, even if it means you do something that makes you unhappy and disconnected from yourself, even if it means you die. And this also happens to us. This is what people pleasing and overgiving, these patterns of behaviors, this is what we do. These are unloving behaviors that we do, that we are doing. And this is why we do it. We're doing it to please other people. We're doing it to make sure other people get their desires met. Meanwhile, our desires are neglected. We're starving, we're malnourished. Meanwhile, we're also draining and depleting ourselves to where we literally get sick, right? It's, again, another way to say all of this is like, you must love us at all costs and not love yourself at all. You must love us at all costs and not love yourself at all. And this is a very common message, especially in empaths, Black folks, and gay folks. This message is very common. Like, you must do everything to placate our needs, to make sure we are okay, at the detriment of yourself. And it's like, your worth is only contingent upon what you are doing for me, not for who you are. You don't have inherent worthiness. Your worthiness only happens, meaning you only receive love from me. You only receive appreciation from me. You only receive acceptance from me. You are only valuable to me if you are serving me. And this is the message that a lot of us have, that a lot of us have been conditioned into from our past, from our childhoods, from situations. And this is why so many people are reacting, because, again, how dare you get to do it and I don't? That's really what's at this, right? So she is being vilified for loving herself in this moment, for putting her needs first, for putting her well-being first, her safety first, right? And I want you to bring this up because we're going to circle back around this in one of the other lessons, but this is one of the big lessons about how this message is so woven into the fabric of our collective consciousness, that loving yourself first is not okay, right? And I know this very well because I lived like that too. I lived a lifetime of trying to live up to other people's unrealistic standards of myself, and how unrealistic people's expectations of how I should be and what I should do. And all that did was cause me to manifest kidney failure, because I was constantly believed I had to please other people. I had to show up and meet their needs. I constantly put mine on the back burner. I was constantly neglected. I was overwhelmed. I was exhausted. I was tired. And I was drained. And that drained and exhausted and depleted energy in my vibration, in my energy field, chronically caused me to manifest a disease, because that's an unhealthy energy, because that's not love. Love is the energy of ease. Love is the energy of peace. And when we are constantly putting people's needs across before our own, I can guarantee you, no matter what you tell yourself in your head, you are not at peace. You are not at ease. You are stressed. You are tired. You are exhausted, and you're drained. And you become drained of the very energy that your body needs to function at its best, that it needs to function healthily, that it needs to be able to perform, that it needs to perform things well. And that energy is your own love. That energy is the energy of your soul, which is love, right? And the message is like, you're worthy of being filled up with your own love first, before you begin to show up and try to serve that love to others. Before you feed others your own love, you need to eat it. You have to eat it first and be full of it before you show up to serve. But what I saw in this response to Simone Biles trying to do this, trying to fill herself up with her own love at this moment, is what happens in society. And society says, absolutely not. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to be able to do that. You're not supposed to be able to fill yourself up first. You're supposed to fill me up first. You're supposed to do what your teammates need. You're supposed to do what your mother or father needs. You're supposed to do what your lover needs. You're supposed to do what your children need. You're supposed to do what your parents need. You're supposed to do what your coworkers need, or your boss needs. But what you need, forget about that and throw that out the door. And that I wanted to highlight, because this is how we get stuck not loving ourselves, and how we get stuck in lives of pain and suffering by following this message. Simone did not follow that message. She ended up pulling out of the entire Olympics to take care of herself. Not just the team events, but she also pulled out of the individual events until she's not participating in the Olympics at all. And again, a lot of pushback. And this is going to lead me to lesson number 2. So lesson number 1 is, there is a lot of narratives out there in dominant culture and in dominant society to not love yourself. And this is what they sound like, right? Here's a bit of what they sound like. We talk a lot about the message of you're not enough and the messages of fear, but there's also a message of you don't get to meet your needs and you do not get to put yourself first, which is a lie. And that message is damaging. That message can lead you. That what I won't even say can lead you. It will lead you to unhappiness. You will not be happy ever by consistently not meeting your needs and always putting other people's needs first. It's not possible. Other thing is, you're going to get hurt some type of way, because you're draining your body. You're draining your body of your soul's energy, and your body cannot function well without your soul's energy. So you're going to get hurt some way, and you may end up literally dying. This is something that I'll have to do in another episode. Is I've talked about this before in some previous videos about how I can tell, I can usually tell how a person died by going to, like, looking at their eulogy, because that's what a lot of times we celebrate people. We celebrate in people the very things that killed them. Like, oh, he would give you the shirt off his back, which means he would always overgive to where he didn't have enough for himself. Like, that's literally what giving your shirt off your back is. You know, she always would say yes. She was always the yes person. She would show up for no matter what. That's a person that's people pleasing, that never says no, that doesn't have boundaries, that is exhausted and overwhelmed, guaranteed, right? And these things bleed the energy of your soul, which is the energy of love, out of the body, and they lead to illness and disease and early death if you do not turn around. This was the entire message behind my own illnesses, which I'll be talking a lot more about. But this was the entire message behind why I manifested terminal illness. This is exactly why. So that was lesson number 1. So lesson number 2 is, we just segue right into it. Self-love is not popular. This is something that I just really want to, if people don't get anything else from me, I speak so much about loving ourselves and how it's the most healing and transformative practice on the planet, how our entire lives depend on our ability to do it well. how our entire health of our bodies depends on our ability to do it well, how necessary it is, but also it's not popular. Loving yourself is not going to win you a popularity contest because of just what we talked about, right? The popular world, the dominant society, is very saturated with these beliefs that loving yourself is wrong, that it is selfish, right? Meaning that it's taking away from somebody else. Instead of understanding that loving yourself is self-full, that is how you become full of your own soul's energy. If you do not love yourself, you are going to be self-depleted, guaranteed. And nothing good happens in your life when you're self-depleted. And so this is the thing that, like, I really want people to understand. Self-love is not common. Like putting yourself first, making sure your well-being is intact, making sure that your dreams and your goals, you are moving in the direction of those, and you are doing what you need, and you're getting the support that you need, making sure that you speak kindly of yourself, and you're speaking nourishing and uplifting and supportive views of yourself. That's not common. And because it's not common, it will often get vilified. Like, the more I have loved myself, the more I have opened, the more haters I've gotten, right? Quote unquote. And why I say quote unquote is because haters are really people who want to do what you're doing, but they haven't found a way for themselves. And so that it causes a discord within their energy field. And in order to soothe that discord, they try to attack you, because if you come down to where they are, if they can attack you when you come down to the level where they are, they can feel good about not being up at the level where you used to be. That's what a hater really is. And that's why we give them compassion, because it's really just somebody that wants to be where you are and they haven't figured out how to do it yet. So anyway, self-love is not common, and so it's not popular. So it's not going to win you a popularity contest, because there are so many people who are not loving themselves, and to see you loving yourself, they are going to try and attack you, because the message is we shouldn't be able to do that. You shouldn't be happy. You shouldn't be in service to your happiness. You shouldn't do what really nourishes you and makes you feel healthy. You shouldn't be in service to your own well-being and to your own mental stability and to your health. You should be out here making sure your company makes the most money it can make. You should be out here giving of yourself to other people to where there's nothing left of you and you're limping yourself back home to the barn. Like, that's the messaging that we have. And so most people view loving yourself as wrong, because most of us have been socialized and conditioned and traumatized to believe that our only worth in this world is where we are being in total service to another person, and to completely deny and neglect being in service to ourselves. That's why so many of us are sick. That's why so many of us are unhappy. That's why so many of us are unfulfilled. And your soul did not come here for that type of life. It came here to be healthy. It came here to be fulfilled. It came here to be happy. And the only way you will get that is if you love yourself. Not doing so, that other stuff is illness. It is violence to the self. It is not love. It disconnects you from love, which is your soul, by the way. Love is the energy of the soul. It's the energy of source. It is source. And this is what disconnects us from it, right? Always putting other people before ourselves, being concerned about what other people think, all of that type of stuff. But this is the thing, like, self-love is not popular, because the dominant society has been it's in our institutions, and it's in our schools, it's in our churches and our religions. We are saturated in this belief that your whole life, the only worthiness, the only thing you can check off the box of worthiness for, is when you have given all of yourself and you have made your personal self die in service to the others. And this is very high in sports. This is why I wanted to use this example, but this it's very clear in sports. Let me not say high. It's very clear in sports, but it's also clear. It's also really high and very prevalent in our work environments. It's prevalent in our school environments. It's prevalent in our family environments. So loving ourselves is about centering ourselves, making sure we are the self that we take care of the most in our own life. Right? Like you have this one self and this one life, and your dominant job here is to nourish and support and uplift and be compassionate with and cherish that one self and that one life. But how we get taught is to cherish and support all the other lives and neglect your own. And that's not spiritual, that's not holy, that's not loving, it's not healthy. So here's number 3 to close this out. So the other thing about all of this, so again, it's not popular, as you saw. She got vilified left and right. There are a lot of people speaking up now to support her, by the way, but there are still a lot of people that vilified her, because loving yourself, putting yourself first, doing what you need to experience happiness and well-being is not a popular thing. Even though it sounds like, it's the right thing to do. When you say it out of your mind and you say it out of your words, you feel like it's the right, appropriate thing to do. It's not the common thing, and it's not the popular thing, and it's not going to win you a popularity contest. This is, again, I want to close with this part. You have to be okay. If you're truly going to live a happy life, and you're truly going to live a well life, and you're truly going to live a life that's delicious, that really tastes good to you, you have to become okay with not being popular. Now, I didn't say not being loved, because you will. The more you love yourself, you will attract love to you, and it will be more love than you ever knew was possible, and it will be a deeper level of love than you ever knew was possible for you. But I'm not going to say everybody's going to love you, and I'm not going to say everybody's going to sing your praises, because they're not. Because doing what is best for you is not a popular thing in this world right now. We're at this level of human evolution where we're just now beginning to learn how to do that. We're still at an elementary school phase of that. We are not in mastery level yet. As a human race, we're not. We are at the beginning phases of learning how to do that. The rest of the animal world has gotten that. By the way, if you look at the animal world, animals will take care of themselves. They will, and they'll take care of their tribe, but they will make sure that they are okay first. They will eat, and then make sure that, like, think about how animals raise their children. They will eat first, and then they will give their children food. And they will make sure sometimes that, like, the children step back, because I need to eat, because I know if I don't eat and I'm not well, you all aren't going to make it, by the way. The children aren't going to make it because I'm the hunter here. You don't even know how to hunt yet. So if I don't have energy to hunt, we all die. So let me eat first, right? So there's this, the animals, many of the animals are perfect examples and beautiful teachers of this. They put themselves first, they get their needs met first, and then they show up to meet the needs of the tribe. They do both, but they do it in the proper order. So here's the last one. Here's the last sacred self-love lesson from Simone Biles pulling out of the Olympics. Even though self-love is not popular, do it anyway. Do it anyway. Why? Because even though it's not popular, it is always healthy. It is always the healthy thing to do. Not loving ourselves is not benign. It does not lead to healthy outcomes. It does not lead to happy outcomes. It does not lead to nourishing outcomes. It always leads us into more suffering. That is the cause of suffering, by the way, not loving ourselves. That is the cause of all of our suffering in our lives. We're not loving ourselves in some way. And the more and more we get into these episodes, the more you'll be able to see this very clearly for yourself. But this is, even though it's not popular, it's always healthy. So do it anyway, right? So even though this is again why I loved what she did. So she pulled out because she said, hey, I'm not fully here. I don't trust myself. I don't need to do this. It's best for me and it's best for the team. Then she came back and she put out of all of it. She said, I'm not here mentally to be able to do this. I'm just not here. And I'm going to do all of that. Even though the world was responding to her and saying, you need to do this for the team. Even though some people were looking and were like, oh man, some of her teammates were like, oh man, Simone, please, like, please participate. Even though a lot of them were understanding, there were still some that wanted her to participate. They were her sisters, her friends, you know, they wanted to participate with her, understandably. Coaches, all of that. And she was like, absolutely not. Right. And here's the thing, had she forced herself to do it when she didn't want to, she would have betrayed herself. Betrayal is never benign. She would have always regretted that. You always regret betraying yourself, by the way. You always regret betraying yourself. You never regret staying true to yourself, no matter if it cost you something. There have been things where I have had to stay true to something in myself, where I've had to back away from something that was really juicy, that was being presented, or an opportunity to me that was really juicy and delicious, but I had to back away from it because it didn't feel right to me in the moment, or I really wanted to focus on something else. I've had to back away from things that were like offering me more money than I've ever seen before, but it just didn't feel in alignment or it wasn't right timing for me. And even though it cost me something to back away and follow my truth, which is part of loving myself, by the way, to stay in integrity with myself, to stay in integrity with my truth, even though it cost me something, I didn't regret it. Because here's the thing, loving yourself always leads you to more well-being. It always leads you to a higher level of well-being, a deeper experience of it. It never leads you to less. But not loving yourself, betraying yourself, always leads to a lesser experience of well-being. It really leads to suffering. Always. It never leads to something delicious. Never. Because again, you cannot buck the current of what the truth of your soul is and manifest something that's delicious. That's not possible. So in Simone's case, had she betrayed herself, the likelihood would have been she probably would have got injured. And maybe a catastrophic injury, like a career-ending injury, right? We think had she just pressed herself through, she would have won the gold or whatever. But when you have a strong centered feeling to let something go or to step away from something, and you push through it anyway, and you don't let it go, you hold on to it, you're betraying yourself and you are manifesting some level of suffering for yourself. So to please them, you're willing to hurt yourself. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because here's why. Here's another lesson in self-love. You'll end up pleasing them, but you'll be dead. Or you'll be paralyzed and all the things you loved, you can't do anymore. Or you'll be severely injured and can't enjoy your life for another 2 years or 3 years trying to get this. But you please them. They got this gold, or you got this gold, but you can't even enjoy it. And then you look at it and you don't ever really feel joy from your actual receiving of it. This is another thing that happens too when we betray ourselves to receive something, some type of outcome or accolade. Usually when we get that thing, we don't enjoy it. We don't derive any joy from having it. How many times have you seen people who have betrayed themselves or sold their souls, in air quotes here, to get certain money or to get a certain position, and then they get that position and they feel even emptier than they did before? Or they feel disconnected, because what you're doing when you betray yourself is you're disconnecting from yourself. And happiness is full connection with the self. Full connection with the self. Unhappiness is when we are disconnected from ourselves in some way, the truth of ourself. And if you betray yourself to try and get something, you're disconnecting yourself from your truth, and you don't just reconnect like that. you've disconnected. And so you go further into the disconnection and you're not going to be happy. So that thing comes and it doesn't bring you any happiness. So this is the thing about it. It's like, we got to love ourselves. Even if it's unpopular, even if, everybody else is screaming not to, your happiness depends on it. Your health depends on it. Your mental alignment and well-being depends on it. And your overall well-being and health of your body depends on it. Self-love is the way. And I'm really glad that Simone is showing us. And remember, everybody is here. We're all souls. We're all connected. We're here to learn from each other. And we've shown up in this lifetime, in this dimension, to grow our own lives, but also to be examples for others that see us. And we're all watching Simone right now. And the lessons for all of us is to love ourselves more, even if they can't take it, to listen, to step away from what your soul is telling you to step away from, to trust your inner voice, even if it's not popular, because it will always be the healthiest thing to do and the happiest thing to do. So, as always, thank you all for listening and joining. Until next time, I love you. Now go love yourself. Bye.